Let's get started. Call the meeting order at 4:32. And
Start with
starting
the roll call.
roll call. I'll
Okay.
start. Tom Keequam, I'm in Union Township, Isabella County.
Marty Fig, Union Township, Isabella County.
Dave
Rick Fox.
Coyne,
Go ahead, Dave.
Dave Coyne, Union Township, Isabella County.
Rick Byers, Union Township, Isabella County.
Jeff Sweet, Union Township, Isabella County.
Brian Milkey, Union Township, Isabella County, Michigan.
That's not 7, is
No,
it?
we still need Sarjeet.
Sarjeet,
Mr. Chowdhury, can you state your name for the record?
Well, if it helps, I can tell he's at home. Union Township, Isabella County, Michigan.
He's not muted.
Sergeant Chowdhury, can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm hearing now.
Okay, you need to state your name and where your location for the roll call, please.
Sarjeet Chaudhary, calling from Union Township from my home, 774 Stone Drive, Mount Pleasant, Michigan.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So now we have a quorum. Let's move on to the approval of the agenda.
I'd like to move for approval of tonight's agenda, 3/16/21.
Second.
We have the motion on the floor by Fig, supported by Mr. Coyne to approve tonight's agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. And the agenda is approved. Moving on to agenda item number 4, the approval of the February 16th regular meeting minutes. How are those looking to everybody?
But fine. I make a motion to approve the minutes of February 16th.
Support that.
Motion by Mr. Bars, support by Mr. Fig to approve the February 16th meeting minutes. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, the same. Hearing no opposition, motion's approved and the meeting minutes are approved. Moving on to item 5, presentations. Do you have anything there, Rodney?
I do not have anything for us today.
Item 6, public comment. Is there anybody dialed in?
We do have a number of guests with us today. So for public comments on any topic, we'll have additional opportunities to talk about the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats session in a moment. But for any comments you'd like to make, any of our attendees are welcome to electronically raise your hand. If you down at the bottom of your screen, if you're on a computer or a tablet, you'll see a raise hand button, and just click on that, and that will allow me to see that you would like to speak, and I will unmute you. If you're on the phone, which one of our attendees is on the phone, you're welcome to hit the star key and the number 9 key. Star 9 will raise your hand for you.
Okay, thank you. Keeping that in mind, Let's roll on to number 7, reports. Accounts payable approval.
All right.
Okay,
Oh, there. But Sherry, I was just going to say Sherry's not with us, but she is.
just in the nick of time. Sorry I'm late. I was in another
Alright.
meeting. I just got out of it. Okay, I have the East EDA accounts payable report in front of me here. We have a check that I issued to MMI for $450. This is for the October 2020 park bench ground maintenance. We had issued a check for that previously that went in the mail. They did not receive, that ended up stale dated and uncashed. So this is just a reissuance of that so they can be paid. And then we have the accounts payable that were issued for today's date. Black Electric, a check in the amount of $286.84. That was to replace a photo eye on a light pole that the Christmas lights had on it, and to install the spring gateway banners out there on Pickard. And then we have a check to CIB Planning for the East DDA Development Plan update for $1,929. And we have a check to Doug Small Engine to plow sidewalks in January and February for $4,500. And then we have a check to Middle Michigan Development Corp for the annual client fee for $2,500. So the total accounts payable for this month was $9,665.84 for the East DDA. Are there any questions on that?
Hearing no questions, can we get a motion then to approve the $9,665.84 for the East DDA, please?
Make a motion that we approve the payments for the check date period 2017 to 23/16/21 in the amount of $9,665.84.
Support.
We have a motion on the floor by Mr. Fig, supported by Mr. Coyne. Any more questions? Hearing no questions, let's, all in favor of approving the payables, the East DDA payables, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. And the motion is approved. Thank you. Want to start us on the West, Sherry, please?
Sure, okay, moving on to the West DDA. We have a check to CIB Planning for $1,929. And we have a check to Middle Michigan Development Corp for $2,500. So we have a total accounts payable for West DDA of $4,429 for March.
Move that we approve the payments for March in the amount of $4,429.
I second it.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed, the same. And the motion is approved. Thank you.
Okay, so moving on to the revenue and expenditure report for the East DDA and the 248 fund. You'll see that in the revenue area, there's just interest earned posted here, $1,620. And then we have expenses posted here for January and February. These expenditures include the accounts payable that you approved tonight. And so we have a total there of 18,749. So there's, it's early in the year, there's not a lot of activity there. And then moving on to the balance sheet, total assets are about $1.6 million and fund balance about 1.6 million. So there's a good healthy fund balance there. And then also at the last meeting, someone had asked about what projects do we have planned for 2021 that are unfinished. And so I provided a list of the projects for 2021 here. These are all in the budget, in the current 2021 budget. They're still subject to the approval of the different projects. So for East DDA, you have sewer pump station number 1 in the amount of $160,260. That was approved in 2018, but it's been delayed a couple times because the bid prices came in quite high. I think the plan is to bid that out again this year to see how things come out. And then there's sewer improvements in the Somerton Road area in the budget for $275,000. There's Jameson Park renovations to Hall and Grounds. This $211,000 includes the $104,000 that you approved last month's meeting. And then there's a contribution to the master plan for parks in the amount of $10,000. So your total planned contributions to projects for 2021 is about $656,000 in the East DDA. And those are all part of your budget that's shown on your revenue and expenditure report. They're included, all of these projects are included there in the expenditures area of the amended budget column there on your revenue and expenditure report. So for the East DDA, are there any questions on that?
I think I asked the question, Sherry. And no, I don't have, I appreciate you bringing this up because I kind of lost track of it over a period of time. You just don't know where we are. And
Right.
It looks like if everything goes through this year, it's going to be about 650,000 unless something else comes up. But
Right.
okay.
Right now at this point in time. So if there's no other questions, I'll go ahead and move on to the West DDA.
Mhm.
So looking at your revenue and expenditure report, again, right now for revenues, we just have interest earned posted. So the revenues for January and February total are $673. And then we have expenditures posted, and which includes your accounts payable you just approved tonight, $4,429. And then moving on to the balance sheet, if you look at the total assets, it's about 1.2 million. The fund balance is about 1.2 million, so it's a good healthy fund balance. And then there's also a list of projects here for the West DDA that are planned in 2021. And the first one on the list is the Lincoln Road project south of the bridge between High Street and Broomfield. There's 330,000 that the road commission is counting on for that project. And then we have pedestrian improvements at the Lincoln Road and Remus intersection in the amount of $25,000. And there's a planned sidewalk on the west side of Lincoln, which is north of Remus Road. And we've got $75,000 budgeted for that. And then the sidewalk construction on the north and south sides of Remus Road between Bradley and Lincoln Roads. And that's the promised amount for that, or budgeted amount for that, is $150,000. And so your total contributions to projects for the West EDA is $580,000. And are there any questions on all of that? If not, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for doing that, Sherry.
Yep, no problem.
Okay, moving on to item 7C. I think just in your packet, there's the board member matrix. And moving on to item 8, new business. And 8A, the approval of the 3-year holiday lighting agreement. Rod, do you want to walk us through that, please?
Thank you. You should have our request for board action dated the 10th of March. This is for approval of a new service agreement with Holiday Decoration and Display out of Hudsonville. Their current 3-year agreement ended with the 2020 holiday season. So they did at our request submit a new agreement that is before you tonight. As is noted in our request, they've been working with us since at least 2015. We had a good season this past year with them, we as staff are recommending that we continue to work with them and move forward with this agreement. There's one item that remained the same. It's very important, and that is that they're not changing their fee. The fee of $10,800 is the same as the current agreement. They did at my request add in 2 items into this agreement that aren't part of the current one. One is you note their tree trimming and bracket adjustments. This is simply a statement in the agreement that the township agrees that that Hometown Decoration has the ability to trim trees lightly, as they put it, or move brackets that are on the streetlights that may interfere with the holiday fixtures. What we have run into is that in some instances, either tree limbs or the brackets that are on the streetlights have rubbed against the fixtures. You know, when the wind blows, things move, and have in some cases have caused abrasion on the wiring and created an electrical short. That would not be a significant challenge if it was easy to take care of a problem when a fuse blows. But basically, each time a fuse blows, we have to have Block Electric go out and replace it. The fuse is actually relatively expensive, but also their time is expensive. And in one instance, at least, there was other damage done to a street light from this kind of a short. So they just asked for clarification that they can make adjustments to make sure their fixtures are safe. The second item does have a cost associated with it, and that's the power cord replacement. We're really actually talking about the plug. These fixtures, they do a good job of choosing the highest quality materials for the electrical lighting that they can get a hold of, but it's still what it is. It's holiday lighting, and you know from your own holiday lighting that it doesn't always hold up over a long period of time. We had a problem with one plug that failed out of 160 fixtures. Talking to them, they said that they had a similar plug fail in a couple of other fixtures in other communities. It's not a huge issue, but again, when it fails, it requires us to have our electrician out, and in some cases they may have to make repairs to the streetlights. Our streetlights, they're basically two systems. One has a separate fuse for the holiday lighting outlet, but there are some streetlights that don't. So if it blows the fuse, it blows the fuse for the whole light. So we asked them to look at what it would cost to replace those power cords and plugs with obviously replacement units of a higher durability level. And this is what they came up with, $1,960 to do that in all 160 fixtures. It would be a one-time charge, and the fixtures would continue to be ours going forward to use. So we're not repairing somebody else's fixtures. So that's an option for you to consider. We're recommending that it be included as part of this updated agreement. And so as you'll see down at the end of our report, we do have a proposed resolution there that does include that one-time power cord replacement option and charge. If you prefer not to do that, then you can simply delete that clause out of the resolution, and we'll note the agreement accordingly. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Regarding that idea of the $1,960 for cord replacement, is that something that you would see as a benefit to keeping the fixtures upgraded and performing? Are there some that won't perform otherwise?
Well, I see it as nothing's inexpensive at $1,960, but let's call it inexpensive insurance. Our street lighting system, it simply costs money to have the electrician out, and they have had to do some repairs. And as I said, even just replacing fuses has a cost associated with it because those fuses are fairly expensive. So I see this as cheap insurance to reduce those incidents that happen, and to ensure that these fixtures will be functional for us and work for us, for years to come.
Do they have any coverage as far as making sure that they will back up the work, or is it just once it's done, something can happen and break and it's part of the deal?
Well, yeah, it certainly, as I noted in the report, things happen. These fixtures are in a very harsh environment out on M20. They actually had one this year that was hit by a truck, of all things, and it just the wrong angle. Truck, cutting a corner, coming into a parking lot, and actually hit the fixture and bent the frame of it. So they're in a harsh environment. Besides the trucks, of course, simply with the weather and wind and all that. So yes, things will happen. The idea here is to reduce the number of things that could potentially happen. If you would prefer not to do the power cord and plug change, they've made clear that the existing plugs will work, and they do test everything each year before it's brought out for display.
Rodney, I think that you're putting a newer plug on a better plug, so you're upgrading the whole system. So I think we should have that, and it's like you said, it's insurance, and because we've probably sent people out there to replace plugs, and you do that 2 or 3 times, that's going to eat up any $1,900 you think you're spend. So I think it's good insurance. It's just upgrading them. Now they're going to work. They're going to be almost guaranteed to not have many problems, at least with the plugs. So I think it's a good idea.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree, and I like to make the motion to approve the 3-year service agreement with Hometown Decorating Supply LLC to provide holiday decorations, display equipment, materials, and installation along East Pickard Road in the East EDA district, subject to annual appropriation to authorize the power cord replacement option as a one-time additional cost of 2021 of $1,960, and to authorize Township Manager Mark Studemeyer to sign the service agreement.
I'd support.
And do the tree trimming. as needed.
That's part of the agreement. So that's covered already.
So we have a motion on the floor by Mr. Bars, support by Mr. Sweet to approve the request for EDA board action. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, the same. And the request for board action is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, shall we move on to item 9, pending business with the East and West DDA districts development tax increment financing plans update?
So this point will turn things over to Elena from CIB Planning.
Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for attending today. I really appreciate that. My colleague Justin and I are here to co-facilitate the SWOT analysis. And just as a quick context here, as part of that DDA plan update for both the East and West districts, our team is really looking forward to kind of hearing from you, attendees and panelists, to gain a better idea of the business environment and community functions really that affect the day-to-day operations in your businesses. And by facilitating the SWOT session today, we'll be better prepared to plan projects within these districts over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years plus. And so, like I said earlier, Justin Sprague and myself will kind of co-facilitate this. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so we can do some notes here. I'm going to take notes as we speak. And these notes also have maps of the districts just in case we need to see those. So I'm going to go ahead and share the screen now. And just kind of as you may have seen already in a handout that was included for this meeting, I wanted to also keep these notes up here so we can kind of keep a focus on the goals today and the purpose for the session. And also, these are some broad categories over here on the right. I'm assuming you guys can all see the screen, but these broad categories are just examples of future projects. That list may be longer or shorter depending on what we plan. But this is a good way to get some public input from the folks who do business in both the East and West districts. So without further ado, I want to go ahead and open the floor if we can and start with the strengths within the East DDA, just by alphabetical order. We'll start with East. So we're looking at strengths in regards to sort of what has drawn you in or what has drawn investors into the area, what's unique about the area, etc. So if we want to go ahead and start, I'll take notes as we speak. That would be lovely.
Really quick, Elena, I'd like to add in too, as you think about some of the strengths around that. One is, investments that the DDA has made previously that have enhanced the district. We like to know what those are. We like to understand what sort of businesses and amenities currently exist, how the DDA is functioning with the general public and serving the general public. So those are a number of items to think about as we're kind of listing out what the attractiveness of this district is.
Thanks, Justin.
So we have 4 attendees with us. And so for any of our attendees, if you would like to share your thoughts on the strengths of the East DDA district, As I said, simply click on that raise hand button at the bottom of your screen. For the panelists, you don't have that button, so you can go ahead and jump in as you choose.
Also, one other thought as you think about this area, and I know Elena and I are both very familiar with the community, and we've been to the community many times. But as you're sort of telling us what through your eyes those strengths are, sort of explain it to us as if we've never been there, in a sense that you're trying to consider us as potential investors in the area, and selling the district to us.
All right. We have a person on the phone. The phone number ends in 266, and I've asked them to unmute.
Yeah, Jeff Harrison with Birch Tank and Truck. Can people hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yes, I'm in the Eastern District. I have the 26 acres between Somerton and Enterprise Drive. And we're looking to grow. Mack Truck is leasing my big building from me. They're looking to possibly doubling the size of the building and adding maybe 30 more employees. They're looking at the options. They're wondering what the tax incentives there could be on it. They're looking at their options right now. Are they going to stay here? Are they going to leave? Birch Tank myself, I mean, we're over capacity. We're looking at the options of adding on to some buildings or putting new buildings up possibly, or kicking these things around. And then also property on Somerton Road, possibly looking at developing that, putting in some like industrial rental buildings maybe. We definitely want to grow this park. That's what we're looking at. What direction we're going is kind of up in the air. These are all being discussed right now. So I was wondering kind of what the township plans are and what can the township do for us. And, you know, just those are kind of my thoughts on it.
Thank you for that, Jeff. Yeah, as you probably heard earlier in the financial reports, one of the items that's in the budget for this year for the East EDA it was noted as $275,000 for sewer improvements along Somerton Road. That's actually for an engineering study. So it's not unfortunately, that's not going to be enough to do the work, but it's basically to set us up to be able to do the work. And so that is budgeted this year to get that engineering study done for extending water and sewer along Somerton Road in the East EDA district.
Hey, Rod, can I make a point of interest? One of the reasons the Enterprise Park has been growing is when this DDA first formed, the water table was right up to the top of the ground at certain times of the year, and the DDA invested very heavily in that drainage district, in that drain, and basically drained all that water out of there, which most of that water out, which allows people like Jeff to have the option, or anybody else coming in to have the option to build there. But before it got kind of stagnant because there was some restrictions.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So that's a significant success related to that business park.
There's a good location here. We're close to the expressway. You got 20. The land's all pretty flat. There's a lot of good positive things in this park here, and like we just brought up, that drainage line. It took all the water out. It was definitely, we had a lot of flooding before that, so it's been since then. So that was really a great project.
Great, that's excellent. Thank you. Are there any other, since we're talking about Enterprise Park, are there any other things about that area that are worth noting in strengths?
There's adequate power here. We just had three-phase brought in, 440. I mean, that was not available. We had it brought in at the last building addition we did. You know, you've got good roads around it. We're kind of, the area is a good area for industrial work, you know, with the closeness to the expressway. And, you know, that we are finding employees, and, you know, it's, we definitely need more employees. You know, that's always a big kicker right there, is new employees. You know, the Somerton Road, there's definitely room for development on that. It's kind of been stagnant because there's been no sewer or water there. That'd be a big help, getting a sewer and water in Somerton.
No, I think sewer was done a couple of years ago on Smarten. Wasn't?
There's sewer and water improvements inside the park, but there is no sewer or water along South Somerton. It was not extended that far.
It was on North Somerton, Rod.
Yeah, yes, you're right. I apologize. Yes, North Somerton.
No, but that's where the sewer, yeah, we added more water out there. I think it was a connecting, I can't remember, the north of there, brought it around.
What do current vacancy rates look like in the business sector through the district? Are they pretty much all occupied, or are there some industrial spaces that are still available, or could be filled?
Right around us, that they're all occupied. There aren't any vacant buildings available. Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
So we have Jeff Harand has his hand raised, so I've asked him to unmute.
Hi, everybody. We manage the Starbucks Center at the Expressway.
Whoops. I apologize. I accidentally hit the button and made him a panelist. So
Yeah,
forgive me.
I thought I got lost there for a second. But anyway, you know, we've had a couple vacancies there for, well, one of them has been since we built that center. And one of the things that we do get is a lot of calls about medical and recreational cannabis, and that the township has opted out. And Mount Pleasant opted in, but the township opted out. I guess I put that under opportunities then, threats or weaknesses, but that we get a lot of calls to want to rent that middle space that we've had trouble renting for that use. But we do have a couple vacancies that have been very hard to fill in the middle section there.
Thank you. What else is a draw to this area? What makes the district special? Or
Justin, I think that one of the big advantages this district has is the roads. You have 127 and a major exit and entrance to the highway at Pickard, which is also M20, and it's very well enhanced all the way to Midland. And I think the roads access, like Mr. Harrison was mentioning, his trucking company has a good access to roads. I think that's a major draw to the area, and not only the roads, but the condition of the roads. We do a lot of maintenance and upkeep on the roads just in the EDA itself, let alone the county and the township and the road work that they do. So I think the roads is a pretty good benefit to that district specifically.
What about that they were planning to extend this high street under the 127 parallel to Broadway? What is the status on that?
I'm not aware of any plans to bring any of the east-west roads across the freeway, whether under or over. There's not been any discussion of that I've been a part of.
It was, I think it was few years ago it was planning.
I meant to add on to my statement about the roads. It goes right along with the access to the casino, and that is a major enhancing advantage to our district and that east side and probably even the west side, just for all of the people that it brings to Mount Pleasant. And
Sure.
so there's the water park directly as part of the East EDA, which is part of the casino properties. But I think the casino in general, the Soaring Eagle, has a lot of benefits to the district in that corridor. But, you know, specifically the water park is a big part of that. So I don't think we can overlook the overall impact of the Soaring Eagle on the whole district and specifically the water park.
So those are definitely assets. And one of my questions was going to be, what sort of drives the district itself? Is it tourism spend? Is the district sort of tailored to tourism? Is it a mix of local and tourism? Is it what's the commerce like in the district?
Rodney probably has a pretty good idea on that one. I would acquiesce to his advice on that. He probably has a pretty good balance of how we integrate a lot of different things into that. I don't know what the percentages would be, but he might hopefully have a good idea how that impacts your question.
Well, yeah, I don't have the percentages either. We do have somebody on with us, Chris Rowley from the Convention and Visitors Bureau, that may be able to help at least partly to answer this question. If she's able. I don't know, Chris, can you add anything to that particular topic?
Sorry, I was getting my mic around. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes.
I mean, certainly I don't have any percentages. I could get that for you if you wanted to know like the number of hotels, but I would say it's definitely a tourism focus with a lot of restaurants and lodging within the area, but I don't have any statistics in regards to that, but I would say it's definitely tourism focus in that area.
No, but I
think that's a strength certainly as well.
Absolutely.
There's a high traffic count to me was a major contributor to the growth out there. I mean, besides the attraction to the casino, but with the some of the different businesses going up out there, and it seems like that they really rely on high traffic. I don't know what the count.
And I do have to say too, from my perspective, I was recently through there maybe 2 months ago, and I had to say one of the assets in my eyes was the quality of the development that's going in. So the buildings that are going up are not just your average steel structure. They seem to be going up with nice design.
And I think maybe some of that has to do with that corridor in particular in Pickard. A lot of money's been invested in beautification. And I think it doesn't look like an industrial corridor. It looks like a higher end business corridor, which may attract those kinds of businesses that want to build nicer looking buildings. I do want to point out also, I consider an asset to this district, even though it's just outside the district. To the north is the airport.
And
campground.
What is the primary service of the airport? Is it mostly private in and out, or?
Not entirely. I know the tribe uses it quite a bit. You know, and there is an authority that is built on that now. That is a partnership between Rodney knows this better than I do. The township, the city. Trying to think out who else is involved, but there's new political investment in that as an asset to the community to help drive, you know, bringing people into the community.
It's the Joint Operations Board. It's just established. We're in fact looking at our first meeting in April at some point. That's being planned right now. It does involve the city, the township, the county, the tribe, and the Middle Michigan Development Corporation. They've all come together on this one and all have representation on this new Joint Operations Board.
Good.
Robbie, I'm
Is-
sorry,
is-
can you
is
repeat
the-
the name of that, the committee?
It's just the Airport Joint Operations Board, I believe it is.
Okay.
Yeah. The airport is owned by the city of Mount Pleasant and will continue to be owned and by them. But as Brian said, these other entities are financially investing into the airport and so to become part of this Joint Operations Board.
And there's also that campground right across from the airport too, which is another draw. And I think that other one on the reservation, and do they still have that one? That campground on Toma?
Yep, that's still there.
Yeah, so there are two campgrounds too. So that's not just, I mean, that's bringing people here, not just for the casino, but they may do some other things too.
Good. One of the things I think would be good to know as well as a strength is, if possible, coming up with some sort of total number over time of the DDA that has been invested in that district to improve that district. And I think that's a strength to highlight going forward. And I always say those DDAs that are willing to take on sort of a development partner role or an active development role are the ones that typically have more investment in the community, as opposed to those that focus primarily on just doing beautification. So it would be good, I think, as we tell the story going forward, to know what that is as an asset.
Exactly. Great.
I could follow up on Brian's point about the airport. I believe that it's a big benefit to a lot of the industry in our area, like Dellfield, Bandit, and many of the others that are here that can use the airport for sourcing out products and deliveries and taking advantage of that source of transportation. And I think that that's also a draw to industry here in this area based on the housing availability, the good roads, and the transportation that's available.
Sure.
Excellent. Good. Well, I think that's a great list so far. I think if we don't have other people in the on the panelists or attendees raising hands, we could probably move on to the next category, which is weaknesses. But before I do, is there anything else that we'd like to add to strengths that we might be thinking about? Okay.
Yeah.
So I heard a couple of weaknesses in that discussion. One being, employees or, difficulty to find employees. Some vacancies by the Starbucks building. Those are just a few that I've heard over the course of the discussion so far. Any other weaknesses that are worth mentioning?
I heard also there was lack of water and sewer at this point on Somerton Road, but that may be coming in the future.
So
Yeah, that's 2021, is what I understand, for sewer anyway.
When I look at the map, I know in the township, we really value what industrial areas we do have, which are limited for various reasons. And one of those is Enterprise Park. But on the northwest corner of this district, it abuts essentially another industrial area. The problem with that area is the roads are almost untravelable. I mean, you almost can't drive down Airport Road at that area. And I doubt that there's infrastructure there as well. I don't know, one of our staff members might know more, but there is opportunity in that northwest corner that I think isn't enticing to any businesses currently, really.
Is there a name for that industrial area? Is it an identified park, or is it just sort of a space that's grown industrially over time?
It is a space that's grown industrial over time. The roads are North Packard Road, East Airport Road. That's basically the intersection there. There's also Park Place and Park Drive and Corporate Drive. Those are all the roads that are associated with that park.
Okay.
And the future land use, if I remember correctly, I don't have it in front of me, but I think it's trying to encourage that kind of development there, industrial, because we have limited space for industrial. That's one of those areas that I'd love to see grow.
An interesting kind of corollary in terms of a weakness there. I'll let you finish before I.
Well, I'm done. Go ahead.
Yeah. But in that area, one of the weaknesses actually is that our DDA district only covers about a third of it. For whatever reason, the boundary was drawn in a way that all those roads I just named are actually outside of the district. We have some land in the district, vacant land, but most of the actual industrial area is just to the west of the district boundary.
Yeah, I knew some of it was out of it, but there's opportunity there.
Yeah, I think one of the things we actually discussed as a potential, Rod, if you remember, was a lack of roads going through. There was a road, but then it doesn't connect to Isabella. One of the proposal was maybe put something through there, or I don't remember exactly, but I knew that was one of the probably a long-term recommendation.
Right, that was part of, yes, fixing some of those roads over there. Corporate Drive, I believe, was the big one that we talked about extending for exactly that reason.
Yeah.
Are there any current plans to do that, or no? Is that something we might be able to put in the opportunity area?
Well, if you should have that list that the EDA board adopted last August.
Okay, all right.
That has all of those long-term projects on it, and they kind of prioritize them, and it includes those road extensions.
Good. What else may be detracting from potential investment in the district? I heard lack of land. Is that specifically for industrial, or is that also for commercial, retail, mixed use, residential, anything else that may go into the area?
Well, when I said lack, I was referring to industrial specifically. I wasn't thinking of commercial, so I don't know if I know the answer to that. I think there's opportunities along the Pickard corridor still, right?
Yeah, there are. I think land assembly may be a challenge. We have a lot of small, in some cases, odd-shaped parcels, and so putting them together into a new development site, I think, is a weakness that we need to address.
Okay.
It would be nice if the state, I think they're going to do it this, but I think it'd be nice if the state finished putting the top layer of asphalt, or what they're going to put on top of the road that they ground up about 5 or 6 years ago.
I don't think they're gonna, Rick, I don't think they're ever gonna put anything on top of that.
I thought that was on, we talked about that last meeting, something they thought they were going to start doing something.
Well, they have to redo the curbs, I think, because they didn't grind it down far enough. You'd have to redo all the curbs. It's all just cement. It'd be nice to have it coated, but I don't think it's ever going to be done. I asked about that one time too.
We're talking about M20 along.
Yeah.
I actually had some news about that was going to include in director's comments, and that we've talked earlier that MDOT was coming back to do some more work along the Pickard Road corridor, M20, in a couple of years. And that's still on track to do that. They are going to be doing major interchange improvements. They're going to be putting in roundabouts and redoing the interchange at US 127. But they are also planning to completely rebuild Pickard Road from Mission Street to US 127. They're going to take everything out and completely rebuild it. And so I was just invited to a kind of a pre-planning meeting that's set for April to essentially start that conversation about what we would like to see happen as part of that project. And of course, what we already have talked about that with some of our work last year in terms of what we'd like to have in there.
So as long as we're talking about weaknesses, I don't know if there's weakness or an opportunity, but I consider south of Pickard on Isabella, that first half mile is all zone business, and the properties there range from a vacant corner to older homes, and there's certainly an opportunity for that to eventually be business district there. I mean, it's zoned that, it's future land uses that, and what's missing along Isabella also would be sidewalks to connect all the sidewalks we do have in the corridor on Pickard.
So let me make sure I heard that correctly, because I don't know if it's my computer or yours, but I kind of, you broke up a little bit.
Sorry about
Isabella, south of Pickard, there are some vacant lots, some houses that aren't in really good shape, and it's all future zoned for commercial and business.
Correct.
Okay.
That's what I'm remembering from the zoning. Rodney, correct me if I'm wrong.
No, that's correct.
All right.
Yeah, and Brian, on the corner of Isabella and Pickard, there's two lanes going one way, and then when you get the lane going north, all of a sudden turns into one of them becomes a turn lane, and that, to me, that would be nice if it was 5 lanes, whatever. There's 2 lanes on each side and a turn lane in up Somerton or up Isabella north, maybe matter of hundreds of yards, so they can merge in, because Isabella north of Pickard is not as busy, but I mean, it just seemed like that whole corner just really needed to be revamped.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree. Rodney, is that one of the places they're talking about a roundabout? Is that corner?
They're talking about roundabouts at the interchange. I'm not aware of any conversation at this point about roundabouts at the intersections. I'll find out more next month. But like I said, I know that they're at the very beginning of their planning process. They've been gathering information. Last summer, they were out surveying everything. So at this point, it's very, very preliminary.
They probably have criteria and different information that would determine whether a roundabout might be feasible for that. Is that a reasonable way to think of it?
I would say that's correct, yes.
Couple of questions I had on the weakness as well. We've heard, we've discussed quite a bit about infrastructure and the area being good for business because of the roads and connections to distant markets through 127 or M20. Is there currently access to high-speed broadband or fiber optic internet, or is that a lack? And is that something that could be seen as a weakness for attracting future business?
I don't know if that's a question maybe Jeff Horan might be able to answer, having a building out there. I've asked him to unmute if he has any thoughts on that topic. I do not have an answer to that question.
And the only reason I ask is from my days working in business attraction and retention with a lot of industrial companies. They were all talking about how they like to have access to fiber And
There is a fiber trunk line, a few trunks that run down M20, I know.
okay,
Most of our retail tenants, they're just using cable, Comcast, or I don't know if it would help for, small retailers like we're trying to target, like sandwich stores, sandwich companies, and restaurants, that type of stuff.
okay, so that was my first question. And then second, I wanted to go back to a thought that was triggered by the discussion on Isabel. And is there any kind of blight issues in the district that might detract future investment? Aside from some of the roads that we talked about that were in,
I think Brian hit on it, Jason, when he was talking about some of the smaller buildings that are, most of them are rentals now, that are right along the corridor of Isabella, just south of Pickard. And especially as you get to the intersection of Pickard and Isabella on the southwest corner, there's a lot of smaller homes, which I think are rentals. There's a couple of industrial buildings, and they seem to have kind of broken up the concept of a bigger parcel. And I think there's plenty of depth in that area too, but I think a lot of the individual homeowners or the individual buildings that are sitting there is a hindrance or problem to that which you're asking about for development.
Okay.
I don't even remember what that's zoned, just be south on Isabella Road on the west side.
I think it's B4, Rick.
Yep.
It is. So
Well,
that's,
it's a mix, I think, of B4 and B5.
Okay.
okay. All
And
right.
I'm trying to go from memory, but both sides of Isabella that are zoned business, just the frontage, right?
Yeah. Okay. I know the people that do. I know the people that were invested that years ago, and they would have loved to have seen it develop, but I don't think they're the type of people want to create it, make it to develop. So it's all right now. They're renting the place out. It's same old, same old. But some developers would go in and buy that out, and we didn't make it happen, But they're a little bit more laid back on it.
What about land costs in the district? Strength or weakness for potential development? Any ideas?
I think just forgive me, but I think almost every developer will tell you that land costs too much, no matter what it costs.
Yeah.
So there's always going to be a perception that it costs too much.
Sure.
The assembly element is a costly process.
Sure. Any other thoughts on things that may be holding the district back from reaching its full potential? And it could be, again, it could be regulatory, it could be lack of financing, it could be lack of infrastructure, any number of things.
One thing I just thought of, and it's that large building that Mid-Michigan College owns, and they, of course, they ran the college there for a while. They built the new buildings, adding on, I think, on the corner of Broadway and Somerton, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then that's expanded rapidly, and they're doing extremely well. But they have that old building. I know. I worked with them for a while, trying to find someone to buy it. Maybe we can repurpose it. Maybe we can bring some students back in there. It's one of those deals where it's a huge building. It's kind of odd on the inside. It'd be difficult to make it pay. But boy, that'd be nice if they got something in there, or someone bought it and developed it. But I really don't know. But that's just sitting there, a huge parking lot that they have to maintain with no cars.
I think, Justin, for your purpose, that the building he's talking about is on East Pickard. I think it's 5805 East Pickard.
Oh,
at
okay, thank you.
It's at Pickard in Somerton rather than Broadway in Somerton.
Yeah, you're right.
And it's 57,000 square feet. The interior, unfortunately, shows all the wear and tear that comes from having a community college in it. It's very nice. The interior is sort of 80s like, 90s like maybe.
Gray carpet and burgundy pillars.
Yeah, but unfortunately, it is very worn, just worn out.
Yeah.
And so there's a big cost. The infrastructure has been maintained meticulously. I actually got a tour of this building last summer, early fall, I think, and boy, you could eat off of the boilers and all that stuff. I mean, it was just absolutely meticulously maintained. But the office spaces and classrooms and the interior atrium and all that, just very worn and dated.
Could
So
the
it's
site be
different.
repurposed for an industrial use or something else? Or a data center, call center, anything along that line?
Or maybe casino may be interested to put a school or something there. No?
Yeah, it certainly could be repurposed. I think the building could potentially be reused for something else. Right now with COVID-19, nobody wants an office building.
Exactly.
It would not be cheap to knock it down. There's a lot of concrete in that thing, and so it would be a challenge to clear the site. But certainly the site, if it was cleared, it's a significantly large site. I wish it was a little deeper, but it has enough depth to do just about anything anybody would want to do with it, whether it's commercial or office or kind of maybe a warehousey or you said call center or something like that.
Yeah.
Whom it belongs to, Rodney?
It still belongs to the college. They have they have marketed it for the last 6 years, but they have not been very active. And one of the things I've been working with them on, not with a lot of success so far, is to try to up their game on marketing the property and looking more broadly at possibilities for it.
So what kind of money they are looking for?
I don't know that right offhand.
Anything.
All right.
Yeah, and I think this is good. So I think if we want to talk about threats, it's kind of part and parcel of the weaknesses and what we would also say opportunities as well. But if there are any specific threats that you guys can think of outside of what we've already discussed, this would be the time. But I think that we do have a pretty good feel for potential threats based on our discussion, but just wanted to open up the floor for threats at this point.
I would add one other threat in that the university is a big part of our community. And so a lot of the commerce is driven because of the population that comes to the community through the university. And we've seen enrollment, and COVID has really taken a hit on this as well. Enrollment has gone down and down. And that, of course, means less consumers. And so I consider our university a potential threat or an asset. It's both. But if enrollment doesn't pick up, that hurts our community.
Conversely, there's probably an impact as well for a while there. I'm not sure how long the casino was shut down or at limited capacity. I don't know if they're at full capacity back operating now or what their game plan or strategy is, but I'm sure that had to have some sort of impact, not having all the concerts throughout the summer and everything.
For sure.
Chris, I think Chris Rowley had her hand raised just a moment ago. So,
Yep, I was just going to chime in and just to give some context. Of the 18 lodging properties in the community, 4 were open during the month of April. So certainly tourism was hit hard, and we're seeing a slow return as far as tourism to the area. We have had like 3 tournaments, I think, so far this year. And it was just announced that there is going to be in-person graduation. The announcement's coming tomorrow. That is a positive sign on things coming back, but it's definitely a slow return.
And it looks like concerts are starting to come back as well.
Concerts are starting to come out as well. Yep.
Good.
While I have the floor, if I can can I jump around? I'm sorry, I have to get going, but I don't want to miss the opportunity to talk about an opportunity that I'd like to see. And as far as tourism, I know this is a bigger picture than just Union Township, but working with the city as well. But I would love to see some wayfinding signage. I mean, this would be maybe more of a longer term goal, but certainly as the area grows, I think something that we're missing in this community is more of that welcome signage. We do agree, I mean, the beautification of the area, don't get me wrong, it's great. And I'm very appreciative of that in our community, but I just look at like Midland, when you're heading there, they have some signage with the things to do and with their colors, and it's just a little bit more prominent. That's something that I'd love to see collaboration both with Union Township and the city, because from a visitor standpoint, they don't understand where Union Township is versus the city. Residents don't, for that matter. But would love to see that if I can add that and take my time on the floor. Thank you.
Jess, can I ask you a question on that, on the wayfinding?
Yeah.
When you have a community like ours that is the township and the city that are together, and we're surrounding the city with the township, and so the wayfinding works together.
Absolutely.
And I just wondered, in a community like ours, is there another example of how they handled it as far as distinguishing? Are the wayfinding signs going to be best if they're the same throughout that whole area, whether you're in the city or the township?
Yeah, I mean, I can certainly look into
each have its own identity sign for the township versus the city. So that's kind of a question that is better to look at before you start doing the wayfinding sign than you would after. So that's why I'm asking that when you brought up that subject.
Certainly from what I've seen, it would be a collaboration, and it would be something that's why I'm bringing it up, is maybe more of a long term, because both the city and Union Township, I would think, would want to plan for that and work together and collaborate on that.
That makes good sense.
Yeah, I think you could have, I've seen a number of communities do joint corridor gateway committees.
I was going to say, yeah, Justin, I was going to say Flint Township and the city of Flint have the wayfinding sign, the welcome signage in the Flint Township area. And I believe they've collaborated on that.
Yeah, and recently we did a project for the city of Farmington, updating their master plan, and they're exploring creating a gateway committee with the city of Farmington Hills on some of their key corridors, where one side of the street is city of Farmington, the other side of the street, city of Farmington Hills, and they want to, provide the wayfinding signage, but they want to do it in a collaborative manner, so they're not each spending a couple $100,000 on new signs. If they can work it out together and maybe get some contribution from a corridor improvement authorities that are there, or their EDA, it would be beneficial. It's a good opportunity.
Before we move on to West, I want to be respectful of time as well. It's I have 5:46, and just wanted to hit back on if there's anything else to add before we move on to the West EDA. If there, any strength, weakness, opportunity, or threat that you've thought of as we've been talking here. Don't worry about the bucket; I'll find it. So just let me know before we move on.
I'd like to share a thread, and that is actually related to the amount of commercial zoning. The area, the combination of the city and the township is really overzoned for commercial development, and with the rapidly changing retail marketplace and the Amazons of the world, that there's going to need to be some pretty significant adjustment in what what we allow in these districts and the mix of land uses and how these districts function to take the best advantage of those changes in the marketplace.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think I read a study just recently that said 19% of all retail trade now is through e-trade or e-commerce. So it's starting to take a big bite.
Along the lines of the mixed use, because you have residents in the mixed use, we do have Jameson Park, and I would list that as an opportunity or an asset.
We can definitely make it both.
It's an asset, but it needs work, so there's lots of opportunity there.
And as noted before, we do have the list of the 2020 projects. So we'll be adding all of those in under opportunities. So yeah, the opportunities may not look very long here, but those all become projects as well to carry over those that aren't completed. And then any weakness, we'll find a way to make it an opportunity.
So as we move to the West EDA, we have one gentleman with us, Brian Rush, who is here, I think, for the West EDA item. So I think just to start with, I've asked him to unmute and basically offer his thoughts on this.
Yeah, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Very interesting discussion, and thank you for inviting me here. I think this is great. I think the West DDA and the East DDA are very different entities, if you will, or the sides of town are just so dramatically different. From as I was listening to the strengths and weaknesses of the East DDA, it just struck me as just how different it really, really is. I look at the area where our businesses are located, and we're the only industrial type area in the entire DDA. And you're surrounded by everything from a park to a residential housing to we're kind of the lone soldier there as far as industrial goes. But with that being said, when you talk about some of the strengths of the east side, is the highway corridor is just critical to that corridor. Whereas, just looking at our own businesses here, with heavy haul trucks, we're stuck going through the busiest parts of town to make it through to the east side of the county. It just happens to be where we're at. So we're either running in front of a middle school, to get back over to Pickard Road, or you're running up to Mission Street. Very other little way to get through. So the corridors, while they're good, the roads are good, M20 is good, the trunk lines are good, it certainly doesn't allow the same access to that flow of traffic that the east side does. So as a weakness, that would definitely be one that sticks out. I think if I remember right, it was Jeff Harrison talking about employees. Boy, that's one of the biggest struggles, and probably something that takes up a majority of our internal planning time, more than anybody could fathom, probably, and how to keep and attract, retain top talent is difficult. And every day is more difficult. There's a real race for employees right now.
Absolutely.
And the cost of getting them just continues to get exponentially higher. But there's also a lot to like. There's a great business corridor kind of surrounding us, with the restaurants and different shops. You have a school in the area. You have some nice residential areas, of some higher end homes and some lower end homes in the area, which is a nice mix. But not much in the way of zoning wise. I think if I'm not mistaken, the master plan over the years has sort of pushed the industrial piece more to the easterly side of the city, or the township, I guess, which isn't a problem. I mean, it isn't a negative per se, but you know, as far as growing that part of it, I don't know how much more we can grow. And we have the two industrial parks, if you will, on Commerce Drive and Independence Drive. There really isn't a vacancy. I mean, the businesses are there, active businesses. So I don't know. I mean, those were my thoughts just in general on the West DDA.
So if I may interrupt for just a moment, Brian, I apologize. I didn't fully introduce Brian. Brian is here representing the Fisher Companies.
Yeah,
which is I
apologize.
Is a major employer in the area and occupies, as you said, a significant chunk of the district south of Remus Road, kind of southeast quarter of it, I guess, of the district there.
Is that I'm looking at an aerial right now. Is it a cement facility or?
Yes.
So the area that we have there is home to three companies, really. The Central Concrete, which is a ready-mix concrete plant. Yep. We also have Central Asphalt, which has its own asphalt plant, and then Fisher Transportation, which would be the heavy haul trucking.
Okay.
So I would put, quite frankly, the Fisher Companies in the area of a strength. Of course, it would need to acknowledge their work to get US 10 open again after the dam failures. Amazing work that was done in an incredible short period of time. But they are a strength here, both as an employment center and a major employer, but also in terms of what they do. Certainly, they also have a challenge because they're a kind of a heavy industrial operation, and there are residences in the neighborhood, as you said, the park right nearby. So there's some kind of land use conflicts there, but
sure,
they definitely are an asset to the community.
Brian, can I ask you a question about your access to routes of traffic flow? You've got Independence Drive giving you access to Lincoln. As Lincoln improves with widening, will that benefit your company to overcome some of those challenges of traffic flow?
You know, I guess the answer is yes and no, because, you know, Lincoln Road only gets you north and south of the city. The trunk line is on the east side. If you want to go north and south, really. You know, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the city's 50-year plan, or maybe it's the county's 50-year plan. I'm sorry if I'm messing that up, but I thought that there was at least one design to tie that trunk line in off of Broomfield, maybe, or extend the access to 27 sort of to the south of the city and further to the west. If that was the case, and I think that's a 50-year plan, if I'm not mistaken, or 20 or 30-year plan, but it really doesn't. I mean, the majority of our work goes to the west, right? Our businesses start in Bay City and move to Mount Pleasant. So we're running trucks from Mount Pleasant to Bay City every day, and in Midland. The rest of the trucks are getting on the highways. They're going north and south every day. So I don't know where you would tie in to get there off of Lincoln Road, but it does help. I mean, it is another access.
One of the, if I could chime in, I work with Fisher Companies as well. The Lincoln Broomfield intersection that's just a tough intersection for trucks to make that turn. Lincoln Road, I know improvements are in the works, but making that a 3-lane road. So if you are turning left, so if you're heading south on Lincoln, turning left onto Independence, you have a turn area there to not impede traffic. But that intersection at Broomfield and Lincoln is is a bit of a hindrance. So I know a lot of our drivers even prefer to take Mission to Remus or High Street and then head back to the plant that way, because, you know, so Broomfield's taking you right through the university, so you have a lot of pedestrians there, and so it's about the same, really.
Yeah, Rod, I believe in the plan with the south part of Lincoln Road is to expand that corner. I think it was one of the primary objectives is to open that up because trucks were having trouble with that.
Yeah, there are two County Road Commission projects for South Lincoln, south of Remus Road down to Broomfield. It's basically the project's divided by the river, and the area south of the river is the area they're working on first. So this is the area from Chippewa River down to Broomfield and the Broomfield intersection. And that project is right now still planned for this year. They are, last I heard was a late summer potential. They were still trying to get a few easements that they needed. I think there were 3 holdouts on the easement front to be able to do the work they need to do, but it is definitely a project that's in the near term. And of course, the EDA has participated in the funding of that project.
What is that? What is the extent of that project again, just for clarification?
It's South Lincoln Road, south of the bridge, south of the Chippewa River, down to and including the intersection at Broomfield. And it is going to completely redo that intersection at Broomfield. So it should address a lot of that the functionality that concerns that were raised.
I think based on the last road commission meeting, they were slated for the first week of August to begin that.
Yeah. And then there's a separate project basically north of the river, from the Chippewa River north to Remus Road. That one is in the planning stage. They have not, we have made an informal commitment that will help with that project. The EDA has, but we've not budgeted for it. And the road commission doesn't have the budgeted funds for it yet either. So that one's at least another year out.
Okay.
Romney, I'm sorry, will you repeat the separate project that you just mentioned, the road?
It's to widen and improve South Lincoln Road north of the Chippewa River, basically from the Chippewa River Bridge up to Remus Road.
Into the district, coming into the district.
Right. Well, actually all of what we just talked about is in the district because of our interesting boundaries that extend the district just within the road right of way down to and including Broomfield.
Yep, I see that. Do the trucks, do they alternately go North Lincoln to Pickard?
Not normally. Go straight up Bradley to Pickard.
Okay.
Because Lincoln is not an all-season road and Bradley is.
Okay. Yeah, and you're still hitting residential neighborhoods one way or another.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. What else is going on in the West District? How's the rest of the infrastructure there? We got water, sewer, all the good stuff.
Yeah, water and sewer is available. I mean, I couldn't tell you exactly how the map is, but at least around us, those water and sewer is available. I think there was a development. I'd be lying if I told you the truth. If I told you that I knew the exact date, but it was maybe a decade ago or so, or at least, where they put in the sewer district and improved the water and sewer in that area.
And all the drainage in that area has been improved too.
Good.
I'm not aware of any trouble spots anymore, right? As far as drainage?
I'm not aware of any current trouble spots at this point, no.
All that water wants to move to the river.
Mm-hmm. What are the, I guess I can ask the same question I did with regards to the East EDA. What is the general feel of commerce in the district? Is it primarily serving residential? I heard there's not as much industrial. Is it sort of, I guess, when you think about the retail, and more focused on local access, or are there some larger chains, retails in that area as well? I'm aware of the McDonald's on the corner. I stopped there on my way to Canadian Lakes.
My take on it is it's still a fairly immature, as far as a business district goes, it's immature. But what is there primarily is going to be more local. That's my opinion, at least.
I don't think there's much for retail, just limited numbers. There was a supermarket there at a store there at one time that closed, and then the Coca-Cola bottling plant was there that closed, and both of those are now nonprofits. So,
Jason, it does meet a lot of the requirements that big boxes look for. We had a lot of struggles during the economic downturn starting in 2008. And I think that, like Brian was saying, immaturity is a great way to describe the west side. Lincoln Road is 2 miles to the west of Mission, and Mission is 1.5 miles, almost 2 miles to the east or west of the highway. So over the years, I think the west side has just been a little slow in developing and catching up with the traffic flow that was really brought into more of the east side. And I think the west side meets a lot of traffic requirements from M20 and Lincoln Road for some of the former development that was going on in retail and some of the big boxes. But like Rodney was mentioning, that industry is changing. So maybe we're at a point that we could look at the west side as a newer type of modern looking development area, because the roads now are starting to catch up with some of the development that's gone on south, north, and east of Lincoln.
Well, yeah, and that's part of the story we're trying to tell through your development plan. Is you know, with the assets that are there, companies that are looking to invest always want to make sure they're getting their return on investment, and that they do, you know, are going to have customers, they have access to employees, they can move their goods and products, and so as we start to think about some of these projects and how we want to develop this out, it's good to hear that it is sort of underdeveloped or in a youthful stage, I guess, as a business corridor, because that gives us a lot of opportunity to really tell the story to investors that this is a, you know, this is a good area to be. And then so some of that story again is us taking a look at the investments that have already been made in the district, specifically by the DDA in partnership with the state and other agencies, road commission, whether it be road improvements, infrastructure improvements, beautification, just to show that any developer or business owner that's coming in recognizes that they have a willing partner and an active partner that's already investing in the area.
I guess just to share a couple of thoughts on the West EDA. You know, it's interesting. We talked earlier about the East EDA, that you may not be able to tell easily where the city ends and the township begins. I think the township looks nicer, but on Pickard Road, but nonetheless, it's a more subtle change. In the West EDA, there is a perceived boundary that I think affects the West EDA. It is actually off the map to the east end, and that is the railroad corridor. People often people have boundaries in their minds that may not be in reality. In reality, the city has commercial along this area just to the east of our district. They have some commercial properties basically east of Bradley Street. But the perception that I've talking to people is that really the city ends, the developed area ends at the railroad crossing that's a little ways to the east on Remus.
Is that the trellis?
Exactly. Yeah. It's a very strong boundary, and
Yeah.
everything outside of that is, when you kind of pass under it, you are now passing out of the area. And so I think that does actually affect, from a psychological point of view, the activity that happens on this west side. It's far more of a local or kind of a neighborhood center rather than what could be more of a regional center.
Sure.
Because of this perception, that we have with that crossing.
Well, like I said, I passed through there going to Canadian Lakes. Elena and I just finished a big project there, and we kept reminding him, "You're only 30 minutes from Mount Pleasant. You're only 30 minutes from Union Township. Get over there and spend your money." And likewise, we're trying to get folks at the casino to move over there and buy all the empty lots they have. So, no, it is. It's that trellis is a strong boundary, as you said. You can't miss it.
Very true.
So what types of, I guess, as we're thinking about opportunities, I know we're kind of touching all buckets at this point, which is fine. We don't have to have a particular order. Now, what types of opportunities do you think might kickstart some attraction to this area? What's it missing right now? Is it more of a identified brand or gateway into that space, something that denotes it as a business district or a DDA space? Is it? I guess. What could kickstart it? Any thoughts?
Well, where the state home was, that's in the city, or the city actually owns it. But they've been trying to entertain people to come in there and develop it. And I've talked to the tribe once in a while. I live right across the street from the Indian school, industrial school, and they're working on getting some kind of grants to redo the buildings, and so to improve that. But that's in the city. Union Township, I don't know. It's a draw for the city, but it'll may bring people to expand out into the township too. I don't know if it's really a draw, but it's like, I don't know, it's like a quarter of a section there in the city that's undeveloped.
That is actually outside of our West EDA. That's over on Pickard Road near Harris Road, near Harris Street. So,
well, it's kind of it's an asset that nobody's doing anything with.
Absolutely, yeah.
And Union Township can't really, it's not really have anything to do with it. But it would, if we could get something in there as the city, it might work its way into Union Township a little bit.
It would have, it's a nice big piece of property that would have a big impact if something happened there.
Right. Yeah. So Rodney, you need to talk to the city and tell them to keep going.
I talk with the city planner over there. We meet about once a month to chat about various things, and we have talked about that property.
Because they only came
that
up with.
Sorry, I just am curious. Is that, you said that's just east of the West EDA district?
No, it's actually the property he's talking about is off of West Pickard Road at Harris Street. So it's northeast, about a mile northeast of this district.
Yeah. How, Rodney, speaking of the zoning, you had said it was over commercialized on the east side. Is the same here, or are there more opportunities for mixed use and different types of retail, commercial applications here, office. I guess office is still up in the air, but
Yeah, this is zone B5, so it's similar. The business districts are very similar in character, and there's certainly a lot of B5 zoning there. There's also a fair amount of industrial zoning in and around the Fisher Company's property on
Sure.
to the south. There are opportunities. We update our zoning ordinance. The business districts were updated somewhat. We have a little bit more of a mixed use character to them. There's certainly a lot more that could be done, but the main thing we did was add the plan unit development option. We made that very easy to use and set it up to encourage more creative development, kind of a more mixed use center type development activity.
yeah, I see there appears to be, based on the aerial I have, at least 4 multifamily that look like they go from duplex to maybe 8plex to full-blown apartment in the area here. Do you have a citizens council in this, or have they not hit the 100 threshold yet?
Well, I think in looking at this is something that just at our last meeting, I think we were talking about whether a citizens council was needed. And my assumption is that there is one. We have not had one, but
Yeah.
As part of this project, I think we mentioned that as part of the scope of the work was to deal with that.
I saw that in the RFP.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it seems like there's already a good mixture of housing going in here as far as options for individuals. So I think that's a good story to tell.
Yeah, and we our chair Tom is one of those residents.
Excellent. Yeah, it looks like there's still some green ground available. Quite a bit of opportunity there. So I definitely think there's a marketing potential here to really just kind of share the story of, don't forget, we've got all the assets that we have on the east side available to us here on the west side, and we've got land to grow. What would threaten this space?
I mentioned CMU before, but I'm just going to speculate. I don't have any, it's nothing more than speculation that it would have less of an effect on this district than the east, even though technically it's closer to campus.
One of the nice things that I kind of see in this space, I know when I've worked with other DDAs, they start talking about what's the threat to them, is the first thing they say is other downtowns close by. And I think you have a little bit of the benefit of being around Mount Pleasant, that most of the other downtowns in the area are going to say that you're probably the threat, as opposed to being threatened by other downtowns. So that's really not a case here. I don't see a lot of competition. And maybe some pull to Clare or St. John's or Alma, but for the most part, you're the regional hub. So, Midland's probably the next closest in size. I was going to ask.
There's probably not a ton of threats then. That's good.
No, well, the one thing I guess I wanted to ask when I was going to ask about land costs earlier, what about rental costs? Is there a perception, or have you heard of any perceptions that rental space for commercial use is high, or is it pretty, I guess, average? And any thoughts around lease rates?
And this is Brian Rush talking again. From my perspective, from what I understand in this area, I would say it's a very reasonable. I wouldn't say it's too high, but you know, you have some newer, west of Lincoln, McGurk's put in the new facility there. Well, you're gonna pay more for that than the building down the road that was, I mean, just standard stuff. But I don't think prices are out of line. I think people are trying to push the price as much as they can, but on the commercial side of things, but I don't think it's exorbitantly high.
Oh, good.
This is not a threat, but I just keep thinking about this, and I don't know, Rodney, you can help me out if this is reasonable or not. Because our district goes up Lincoln to Pickard, correct?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
If I remember right, the future land use, was it along both sides of the corridor there? Lincoln north of Remus, where the frontage was business, right? For future land use?
That is a good question. I don't recall right offhand on that.
For some reason I remember that.
Yeah.
When we worked in the master plan, but I mean, that to me, that's kind of an asset, even if it's technically outside the district because it's not in the roadway right away. It is part of or potential of having a corridor coming from the north side of that district leading into this east westerly on Remus.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The frontage along South Lincoln, just kind of a strip along there is all planned for neighborhood service, is what it refers to, or essentially a neighborhood commercial.
And then behind it is the left is ag and
residential.
Residential. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I consider that a potential asset, an opportunity to help. If you have interest in there, it may spark some additional construction in the west DDA.
Good. One of the, I know we're getting close to 6:30. I don't know if it's a hard stop at 6:30, but I know we don't want to take it too long with respect to your time. One of the questions I wanted to ask, and I guess this can go for both districts now, is I know a lot of planners think about sort of pie in the sky scenario, that the ideal scenario. And I'm curious, as part of this update to the development plan, what is the DDA, both East and West District, see itself as, in the long term, and is it just I guess this falls into the opportunity category. I'm curious to know from the members, what is your ideal position of the DDA from making investments at some point? Does it go beyond investing in infrastructure? Is it actually purchasing and developing property, or getting more active in providing incentives to developers? Is it in the long term to sunset? I guess I'd be curious just to hear from the members what your thoughts are around that as we consider the time that we have left and moving into the update phase of the project. I guess, another way to think about that as well is, would the DDA, has the DDA ever considered, being a landlord? And we talked about the property earlier that was the Mid-Michigan College. Would that ever be an opportunity that the DDA may buy that and try to lease it out itself, or something along that line? I guess broad strokes here, and if there was, I guess the best way to describe it is looking forward the future of the organization.
Tell you what I would suggest on this topic, because it's an excellent topic, and we are unfortunately tight on time because I have another meeting at 7 o'clock. That is a very hard deadline with that one. My suggestion would be if you would perhaps to share those questions with me in an email, and I'll pass them on to the EDA board members, to kind of ponder and then respond to you back maybe at their next meeting or through an emails with me. We can kind of gather up some comments on that we can add, because this question of long-term vision, and specifically this question about how active the EDA is comfortable and getting, is one that we started to talk about with that project list that you have.
Yeah.
And it does kind of touch on some of those things, but it definitely is worth, I think, pondering that in more detail and see if we can develop some answers for you.
Yeah, I think that would be fantastic. It really would give us, and it's helpful too for the DDA to sort of create that brand identity of what the organization is. And I'm not saying that you don't have that now by any means. Please don't take it that way. I'm just curious, as we're moving forward, sort of as I stated in the beginning of the discussion, the communities that seem to be really, really thriving right now are the ones where you see EDAs, DDAs, CIAs really starting to take an active participatory role in the redevelopment process themselves. And so I'm just more for myself curious if this group is thinking along that path for the future to sort of spur interest in either of the district as far as redevelopment is concerned, or if it's more of a support role and development as it currently exists in its own lane. So we can definitely send you an email with some of that to think about, because I'd really be curious to some of the answers.
And as I said, for our EDA members, once I have that email, I'll pass it on to you, and as I said, we'll include it on the next meeting agenda, but also ask kind of you to think about it in between.
Right. Yeah, and also too, if there's anything else that maybe you think about later on in any of these buckets, so to speak, for the SWAT for East or West, feel free to also pass those on to Rodney, and then those can be passed on to us that are important. So yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Well, we really appreciate this feedback. This has been excellent. I know all your insights will really benefit us in this long-term planning for the DDA plan. So this is very important, and we really appreciate your time this afternoon. So
Elena, before we close on you, do you want to give a quick update on where the survey is and kind of where the next steps are going to be?
Yeah. So right now the survey, I think what we need to do is just have a quick meeting between you and Carmen, I think, just to make sure we're all set to go with the questions, and the postcards are just about done. I'm also getting some mailing lists for those postcards. Those will be going out as soon as probably could be within the next couple of weeks. So that's moving along well. And yeah, and then Rodney, if we wanted to just make sure, I think one of the things I wanted to do too was if any insight gained today during this meeting had any impact in updating any of the questions, I wanted to provide that opportunity. So that was one of the thoughts I had about the survey. So.
All right.
Yep.
Again, thank you for your time this evening. It was really great to get your insight. If you have any, like Elena said, if you have any questions of us, feel free to either direct them to Rodney or directly to one of us. That'd be great.
And I know a lot of our guests left, but I want to give a shout out and thank you to them for giving us their time too.
Yeah, excellent comment.
Very good insight.
Great.
All right.
Have a good night.
So I think, Tom, that takes care of that agenda item. I think we have one more business item on the list.
Yeah, let's see. Oh, you're talking the bylaws?
Right. You have should have in your packet our request for EDA board action dated the 10th and the updated bylaws. This is we did update the draft bylaws you saw in February to address the comments that we had, and we did note those. You see them in there as underlined in strike through text. So they've been updated to match what you asked for. And at this point, if you're comfortable with them, we ask you to consider adopting the bylaws and then recommending them to the Board of Trustees. Under the state law, the Board of Trustees has the final say over your bylaws. And so you'll have at the end of our request for board action, you'll see a resolution there, a very simple one, to do those two things.
Well, it's nice to have bylaws in place. I think that'll be a good thing. And I appreciate you making those changes. It looks good to me. I would be in favor of supporting that resolution.
I will second it.
Well, I haven't made the motion. Yeah, I was just discussing, but I'm willing to make a motion, but I thought we were discussing right now.
Okay.
But I think it looks good to me. I don't know how anybody else feels.
I agree with your comments.
Yep, I think it's,
I'm sorry, Tom.
I think it's in order. I like the way the comments were, and I think it's something we need to do.
I think we've been following these pretty closely anyway, Rodney, haven't we, to this point? I don't see where we missed a lot of these ideas that are in the bylaws.
Oh, no, you have been doing an excellent job. I think the only thing that we haven't done is the annual election of officers. And so we do need to do that. And I think the bylaws have that down for our May meetings. So if you adopt the bylaws and the board of trustees concurs with that, then we would be looking at having an annual election at our May meeting.
Well,
yep, that'd be perfect.
If that's the case, then I'd like to make a motion to adopt the updated EDA board bylaws and rules of procedure and to recommend final approval of these bylaws and rules of procedure to the Board of Trustees.
I will second it.
A motion by Mr. Fig, seconded by Mr. Chowdhury to approve the requested board action. Are there any more questions?
Is Bars still present?
No, he had to go ahead another Zoom meeting. He had to.
That makes a difference then, okay.
Leave to. He just.
Okay.
He said I could vote for him.
Yeah, okay.
Now he had another Zoom meeting. Yeah.
Thank you, okay.
What do you think? Anything else? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed, the same. And the motion is approved.
Thank you very much. If it's all right, Tom, the next item on the agenda is director comments. I can go ahead and I have just a couple of thoughts to share.
Yeah, go ahead.
First of all, I deeply appreciate your participation in the discussion. Was excellent. I'm glad that we had some folks come. I invited about, I think it was about 20, just about 24. I think it was actually 25 different businesses. Most of them I visited, a few via email. We always hope for more, but I think we had some excellent comments from the business community that came. But I appreciate definitely your comments and direction. That makes all the difference in terms of the work that the consultants do, because they really need your brains, your thoughts to guide this project. You don't want the consultant's plan. You want your plan and to come back. And I think that this was a big step forward in ensuring that what the consultants come back with reflects specifically what our priorities and interests for the community. I did want to make you aware of one project that is coming in the East EDA district, 5048 East Pickard Road. This is Pickard, just west of Florence Street. There's a little lot there. It has a small house on it. The lot actually includes some frontage on Florence Street. And there's a rezoning that will be on the Plan Commission agenda tonight for a public hearing. There's the Florence Street portion is zoned residential. It's kind of an odd boundary line, and they're asking to rezone the whole thing to the B7 commercial district. That's consistent with the master plan, but as I said, there's a hearing tonight for that. And we've been hearing in talking with the owner, it sounds like they may have a development in mind, because they started asking questions about screening and other things, site plan related. So we may see a project come to that once the zoning boundary is adjusted. So that's all I have for you this evening.
Thanks, Rodney, for bringing all this together so that we can move forward with repurposing of the DDAs and keeping us organized and progressing.
You're welcome. You guys are doing great work. I appreciate this as a consultant, long time consultant sitting in Elena in shoes. I can tell you that having an active group like this makes all the difference to the success of a project. So I will reflect that right back to you and say, like I said, I appreciate deeply your involvement and activity in this.
Any other comments tonight? So I think we'll call it adjourned at 6:33.
Next meeting, April 20th.
That's correct.
Thank you very much. Everybody have a good evening.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Thank
You
you.
too. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.